like inactive, as if everybody is sitting at work, doing their job, not knowing anything is coming. And if they had just been hit by a 9.0 earthquake, you would expect these cars, first of all, half of them to be flipped over, the parking lot to be ripped up, and people running around in mayhem trying to figure out what they can do to get out of there. And it's just sitting there peaceful and quiet. There's, the shopping centers sitting peaceful and quiet as a tsunami rolls in. It is so obvious that it is not what we were told. So let's back out of this image here and get out of the next thing. Let's see here. I've got. Okay. Let's go through the safety systems at a nuclear power plant and why Fukushima could have never blown up just because a tsunami hit it. If you click on image 11, we're going to go into the CIRC system at a nuclear power plant. And what this system does is when you lose all electricity to your power plant, it takes the steam from your reactor, and instead of using it to turn an electrical turbine, it uses it to turn a passive steam turbine that's hooked up to a pump that pumps the water. Excuse me. It's hooked up to a pump to pump the water that is operated by the steam from the reactor itself. And so when this reactor is in its cool down mode, it's got plenty of heat left, and it's going to be able to produce the pressure it needs to turn the HPCI turbine. And this HPCI turbine will circulate the water through the system and alleviate any problem. On top of this, there's only one shown on this diagram, but there's actually two of these systems. Now, these systems are powerful enough so that they can overcome breaches and everything else, but there were no breaches. That's another thing. Fukushima proper got a seismic intensity of a 6.3 at the power plant, and Fukushima Daiichi proper was designed to handle an 8.0. So it got a little over 1% of the shaking it was designed to take to begin with. I don't have it linked, but I did get the comments from one of the engineers that was out of Fukushima, and he said the place got through the earthquake in perfect condition. There was nothing wrong with it. There were no broken pipes. Nothing was wrong with that facility. I've only linked in my article a percentage of the information I have so that I can play whack-a-mole in case shills and saboteurs try to get rid of links. If they get rid of links, the only thing that's going to happen is a new one's going to pop up to replace it. So I'm not revealing all the information that I came up with for this report because I want to be able to keep it alive in case a war ensues against it. If you go to link number 12, this is the borated water system. And how the borated water system works is you've got a pre-pressurized tank of water. And this is for use in case the reactor will not shut down the correct way. Boron is a nuclear process poison. They call it a poison tank because when this tank, which is already pressurized to a pressure much higher than the reactor can ever get to, is activated, it passively forces with high pressure a nuclear poison into the reactor to shut it down whether or not it wants to run. You put this stuff in the reactor, it's going to be dead. And so the question is then, is we have these passive systems that are designed to run and keep everything safe, and yet they were not permitted to run. The news reports specifically state that the pressures in these reactors were high after everything fell apart. If the pressures in the reactors are high, that means you've got no pipe breaches. The infrastructure is intact. As soon as you get a pipe breach, the pressures in the reactor are going to drop because it's like having a leak, which means that the steam lines for the CIRC system were intact. The water lines for the CIRC system were intact. So the whole thing should have been running. Well, why didn't it run? And I have to get on to another aspect of this here. Then these systems are controlled by electronically activated valves, and I don't. If any of the, most of the readers here have been next to a semi truck and heard the whoosh sound when that semi truck parks and sets its brakes. The brakes on a semi truck, the way they work, is you have to have air pressure in the system. They're operated with compressed air. You have to have that air pressure in the system to let the brake off. If you lose your air pressure, the brake automatically sets. With these valves on this reactor system, you have to have electricity present to keep the valves shut. If you lose power, the valves automatically open, and you automatically go into safety mode. Yet the controller, which had its power applied the whole time and is supposed to drop this system out and let it run in passive mode, kept that system from activating. It was prevented from activating by the controller. It's the only way it can happen. If they really did have a true full power outage at Fukushima, this system would have activated. Now, you can have failures. You can have a failure of a valve that is stuck and it doesn't want to open, but they had 2 of these at each reactor. And then why did all 6 valves across the entire system fail? That's what we're faced with here. No cooling at 3 reactors that had fuel in them. This is an impossibility. On top of that, then, why didn't the boron tanks get activated? The boron tanks use an explosively operated valve. So even if the valve is perfectly stuck and you blow that valve with explosives, it's going to be open. And yet none of these systems activated. We had 100% safety system failure at this facility. And so there has to be a reason for it. Well, as it turns out, Magna BSP, the company that was providing security for Fukushima and put these nuclear weapon-looking cameras inside the reactor containment, came from Dimona. Now, Dimona is a military base in Israel. Actually, they came from their front company is set up in a district called Areva that surrounds Dimona. Dimona is where Stuxnet was written. And if you click on links 20, 21, and 22, these are links which document that Stuxnet was written by the Israeli Defense Forces, and link 22 is a celebration. There's 21 and 22 have videos of Israeli Defense Force officials celebrating the success of Stuxnet. So it's beyond. So here we have this company coming out of Dimona. Okay, I've got to give you a little bit of background here. Way back, a little over a year and a half ago, in order to satisfy the UN and eliminate the need for Iran to have an enrichment facility, Japan stepped up and said, we will enrich the uranium for Iran so that they can get their nuclear program going. That way you don't have to worry about these centrifuges, you don't have to worry about anything. We will enrich their fuel for them. And I guess you don't want any links given out, but I do not. Well, I do have a link to those articles on this page. I should, anyway. Yes, I do. It says, right below link number 15, it says enriched uranium articles. If you click on these, you will go to several different all 5 or 6 of these links underneath here, go to various articles which reported that Japan did indeed offer to enrich uranium for Iran. The American press never reported this. As far as I could find, I never found a single article where this was reported in the American press. And so now we have a reason for Japan, for Israel to want to go in there and take out Japan's nuclear program. This provides a pretty strong precedent. So 4 months later, after Japan makes this offer, Magna BSP got a security contract to secure the nuclear facility at Fukushima, and they came from Dimona, where Stuxnet was written. Dimona is where the nuclear weapons are made. It all fits. Now, we had another really important point to make here is we had a massive explosion at Reactor 4. And Reactor 4, according to TEPCO's reports, and I have a link to this, but I did not link them to this article because, like I said, I want to play whack-a-mole. Reactor 4, I instead linked a drone photo which proves that Reactor 4's dome was taken off. If you click on link number 13, you can see that Reactor 4's dome is sitting in the service area. And if you go to the back of the high-resolution photo that I showed in the beginning of the destruction of the facility, where you can see that I put the car like on top of the wall and on top of the reactor dome, I put that car on top of this reactor dome. So that gives you a scale of how big this reactor dome is, and also that it's proof that the reactor dome is sitting in the service area on the opposite side of the building from the reactor. Now, if you look on the top of this reactor dome, I've got the number 1, you can see that there's an assembly attached to the top of this reactor. And this assembly is attached so that they can lift that reactor dome off. This is something that goes on the crane, and they can pull that reactor dome off. They can't just hook onto this round thing. They got to hook something up to it and bolt it down and then lift it off. Obviously, if you look to the right of the reactor dome, the explosion blew the crane off its rails, and it's laying next to the, on the floor where it shouldn't be. Below is the same dome out of Browns Ferry. Browns Ferry is a TVA-operated nuclear facility that is in Alabama. Anyway, it's in Alabama. And it's by one of the rivers. It's close to the Mississippi, but I forgot the name of the river it's by. This facility has reactors in it that are technically the same in operation and made by GE. They're identical to the reactors at Fukushima. Now, you never get exactly identical because different companies make different orders and different, we want a little bit different like this. So it's not going to be a perfect copy of Fukushima, but functionally it's the same thing. It's the closest thing we have to compare it to, and you can see from the people sitting next to this dome that these reactors are not little things. They're absolutely massive. So how on earth, in image number 1, did that reactor just up and vanish outside of major hard weaponry being in use? Now, after studying the pictures, I have concluded that reactor is probably still sitting there, but the structure, these reactors, if you look at the diagram, that's to the left of the vanished reactor picture, there's an empty void underneath that reactor, and I believe that reactor is actually sitting down in that hole next, underneath. And I think my guess is that the structure around it got blown away and it fell, it actually fell down, because I can't prove that it ain't vaporized, but back when they did the first nuclear weapons test out in the I don't remember exactly where, but I actually went to the Los Alamos Research Laboratory as a kid, and they described some of the stuff that they did with at the end of the Manhattan Project and the nuclear testing that they did. One of the things they did was they suspended a steel ball above the first nuclear weapon tested, and it was only suspended a few feet above. And when that nuclear weapon went off, the only thing it did to that steel ball was scorch the paint. It did not vaporize the steel ball, and it threw it a half a mile. I mean, we're talking a giant multi-tonnage steel ball, not some little thing. And so, due to the mass of these reactors, there's no way on earth they got vaporized. You couldn't vaporize them with a nuke. They're just too big. There's too much metal there. It's too thick. You can't get rid of them. So my guess is that Reactor 3 is actually sitting down in the hole that was left when the structure supporting it was blown away. I guess
James, this is Field. I want to jump in and suggest to you that the reactor in Alabama may have been at Athens, Alabama. Does that sound right?
I had all that. This is like a couple of months ago when I went over it. This is just it's Browns Ferry. It's the number 2 sized nuclear facility in America. It's been run very well. It's a great facility. It's certified through 2035.